So the creators of CrossCode just dropped a demo for their brand new game called Alabaster Dawn, and the people who've played it are absolutely loving it, and I'm one of those people. With an overwhelmingly positive 99% rating on Steam, this isn't a game that's flying under the radar. It's a game that's building an incredibly passionate community before it even comes out. Pixel art is officially aging in reverse, isn't it? It's not just this nostalgic throwback anymore, it's this living, breathing art form that keeps pushing boundaries. This game doesn't just embrace its retro-inspired fantasy aesthetic, it elevates it to something truly special. And in the next few minutes of this video, I would tell you if this is your next obsession. So if you thought CrossCode was the ceiling for retro-styled RPGs, well, this demo is just the thing that's about to rip this roof right off, because I need you guys to stick around to the end of the video, because I'm about to show you why Alabaster Dawn might already be the most beautiful pixel art RPG. So let's get the pedigree out of the way, because it's quite important. We're talking about Radical Fish Games here, the team that gave us CrossCode. Now, for some of you who have not played CrossCode, to give you an idea of their greatness, CrossCode currently sits at a 93% positive rating on Steam from over 9,000 plus reviews, with a fan base that's very large. They've already have proven they can squeeze liquid artistry out of the limited pixels and tie it into incredible combat. Now with Alabaster Dawn, they've had 5 extra years since the full release of CrossCode to refine their craft and a bigger tool chain to work with. Now, upon first impressions alone, when I booted up this game, the visuals look absolutely amazing. Now, to give you a reference, right? So you boot the demo up. It's not some grand cinematic or a lengthy exposition. Instead, the very first scene drops, Juno, our outcast chosen, onto this windswept cliffside, right? And that's like right as soon as you are in the main menu, and I'm like, okay, I know I'm about to be into something great. Just that alone told me like, and it scratches the nostalgic itch. Like, it reminds me of older RPGs like Final Fantasies and all that stuff, where like it's an iconic title screen. But then once you actually boot into the game, the 2.5D pixel art is absolutely fantastic. It's crazy to think how far these styles have come, because the grass isn't just green, it's multiple shades shifting subtly with the breeze, and the background waterfalls glow a soft pink from the sun. There's not too much UI, there's no dialogue box, just you in a world that already feels just quite immersive. The colors truly pop, and the pixel designs add so much depth to the world. It could honestly be up there for one of the most visually pleasing indie games of the year. But as you continue going through the demo, the story so far is really grabbing me. I actually really enjoyed it, and I got a bit hooked on it, because when you play the prologue, it showcases this final stand between individuals that is chosen by their gods. But at the final push, the gods fall silent, and the fate of that crew is left unknown. And then we meet our new protagonist, Juno, who is the final outcast of the Chosen. And our main antagonist is this mysterious curse named Nyx, which has swept across the entire land, petrifying most of Tyrant's soul, which is the world of this land. Juno awakens with this spirit companion named Cabbage. Now, think Navi from Legend of Zelda, but if she basically had like a snarky wit of GLaDOS from the Portal series. But their banter really sells the stakes without having this tedious exposition. Even during talking scenes, the animated 2D sprites of the characters appear for conversations, making them just feel a bit more alive. And Juno's journey is one of restoring life to a devastated land. And the big question I have is, why did the gods leave the others for dead, but left everything up to Juno? And that story beat right there is making me want to play this game even more, because that was a crazy cliffhanger, and I already have a lot of questions that I would like to have answered. So I definitely cannot wait for the full game's release. But moving on over to the combat. Now, the combat is actually pretty simple, but incredibly responsive and smooth. You start off with a sword and a crossbow. You can parry or dodge attacks. the top-down choice for Alabaster Dawn was honestly a very good one, because if you play a lot of isometric games like Diablo series, Torchlight, or Path of Exile, you will honestly feel right at home with how fluidly Juno controls. A crucial element is the break meter, which you will see a meter under every enemy's health bar. Once you fill it, they basically become stunned, and you can basically deal as much damage as you can with their defenses being down. Now, the boss fight in the demo, the Inferno Vespa, is a decent fight that requires you to understand the fundamentals of the game, especially parrying. It's a great test of everything you've learned so far. But there is another boss fight in this demo that truly flips that on its head and requires you to be almost a master of this stuff. Granted, there's also a pretty decent sized progression system here. Juno's personal skill tree and weapon skill trees for both your sword and your crossbow, and even the hammer that you gain later on in the demo, have, quite a few impactful upgrades right from the start. As you progress through your weapon trees, you will come across the gems that let you enhance your gear even further beyond its natural point. Grab an early node, suddenly your critical hits spawn like little burst of heals. And of course, if you invest deeper into the skill tree, you can do pretty much a lot of different like parried attacks. You get a couple better combos. And honestly, these upgrades feel very impactful right from the start. Along with combat, we do get some small puzzles though. They're nothing super crazy difficult early on in the demo, but once you get to the dungeon portion of it, that's when it really starts to it requires you to think just a little bit more. But what I like about the puzzles and the dungeons is that they feel like they live naturally inside the world. You won't find this glowing blue paint. You won't find this glowing blue paint screaming interact here. You know how most games have like a yellow tag on it or a white tag on it, like, hey, go over here. Like, no, it's a different things have like a pressure plate might be slightly raised. The game trusts you to observe and experiment with the environment to progress through these puzzles. And then of course, like I said, you gain new weapons, also helps you go back and unlock new areas, which helps with the exploration of this game because there's a plentiful amount of exploration. Getting the hammer helps you destroy rocks you couldn't break with your sword. And then, of course, like I said, you get this sneak peek at a dungeon, which shows even more in-depth puzzle solving, focusing on a theme of learning how to use your weapons and your other teammates to progress. And by the end of it, you gained a new power to help progress. But speaking about exploration, we get to see where the world building actually shines, because the whole rinse and repeat of this game from just looking at the demo alone, and I played it, I think it was about like an almost hour and a half, maybe 2 hours of this demo. You have to cleanse an area of Nexus influence, and then life returns as NPCs move back in. You can help villagers to really rebuild your reputation with them, gathering materials to cook different rations for passive buffs. You can help out the blacksmith, and few in-game days later, you get new weapons and stuff like that. That's just overall just noticing just how the game is going to be played when it fully releases, because the demo was very disjointed. There's 2 parts to the demo. There's the prologue, and then there's like pushing you further ahead of the game. So it's just understanding like how each of these places really work, and it's a brilliant way to really deepen the connection to the world and its inhabitants. I also just love traversing the beautiful world as well and seeing the villagers have conversations as you pass by, and this dynamic culminates in a key moment in the demo because the game does skip ahead to a feast in a rebuilt village where you see the tangible results of your actions, with the villagers now celebrating quite a moment of peace. Now let's talk about the secret sauce that helps the game feel so smooth and polished. The fluid movement and silky smooth visuals feel like they have written a custom pipeline just for 2D sprites, which is kind of the technical polish that this team is known for. There's the different plants in the environments that you can cut into that just feels alive, and that's the one thing I can't put my finger on what to call it, but I just can't. This world feels alive. Another thing that truly helps you aid the visuals is the soundtrack, and it's beautiful. It is beautiful. It's not like super crazy heavy metal, like it's nice soft melodic I cannot even speak melody tones and you swear you can feel almost the grit underfoot, right? footsteps dynamically swap samples between the on ground you're traversing. Every area that I've seen or been into has this whimsical sound to it that really just immerses you in the beauty this game provides. Explore a cursed forest, you'll get a slow, ominous beat. The cleanse zone and a hopeful harp, sneaks into the mix. And headphone users will pick up on Kamich humming along when you idle, which is normal until you realize the melody is just from a final boss theme. Like I said, there's a final boss at the end of this demo who he put Bill to ass to me. I'm gonna be honest with you, I was struggling a little bit, but overall, instead, when enemies, they drop specific loot, which I haven't got a chance to see what the loot really does. The demo doesn't really let you utilize the loot in your inventory, but there's also gem shards that can be slid into your weapons or armor. There's ruby fragments, and you overall can use these gems to improve your gear to be able to deal extra damage or get extra buffs. And there's just a few things, like I said, this game can be challenging and a little bit, right? The challenging part comes from the limited amount of healing, similar to most Souls-like experiences, but death never feels cheap because honestly the parry windows are very generous and clearly telegraphed. It honestly speaks volumes about the game's tight mechanics and just offering a fair challenge for players. Now, developers have confirmed that Tyrann Soul is only one continent. The full game apparently is supposed to have different underwater ruins, some sky islands, and I would need to look further into what exactly the other areas or roads part will be able to exist in this game because there's not too much information. But the open world aspect after the tutorial boss is pretty big, very reminiscent of OG Final Fantasy overworlds, but this is just one physically interactive. The world just seems big, but you can kind of get to points of interest rather quickly. They've shown us quite this exquisite brushstroke and implied the mural wraps around the planet. Now, the bigger question is, could it still stumble? Of course. The full map could feel sparse, in-game crafting could become a grind, settlement upgrades might turn into a chore list. These could be valid concerns. However, the demo alone gave me a solid hour and a half to 2.5 hours of playtime without repeating a single room of puzzles or anything of that nature, which bodes incredibly well. Plus, Radical Fish has an exemplary track record of post-launch support. CrossCode receives substantial free content updates. If they treat Alabaster Dawn with the same dedication, the only real risk is that we'll all lose our summers to it. Current word is that this is supposed to have a 2025 release on Steam, with console versions for Nintendo Switch, PS5, and Xbox is planned for any future releases. While the price is definitely unannounced, Radical Fish Games is an unfounded indie studio whose history suggests premium, value-driven model with no battle passes or season passes or anything of that nature. So basically, it could be a game ranging between 20 to 30 bucks, maybe 40. So to answer the question again, why do I call it the most beautiful pixel art RPG ever made? Because beauty isn't just about the sprite count, it's about cohesion, right? Every single system, from when I played in this demo, the fluid combat, the compelling story, the dynamic music, feels like it has grown from that exact same seed. Pixel art isn't just this nostalgic filter, it is honestly quite have been a fundamental language the mechanics speak. When Juno's overall doing a perfect parry, the single pixel is telling you a story about timing, risk, and reward, because there's been too many times where I timed it wrong and I took a little bit extra damage. But no other game so seamlessly marries visual restraint with such profound mechanical depth. Now, does any of this sound like your personal, hey, I need to go buy this right now? Are you picture yourself trying to explore this world? Tell me what you want to do. So far, I need you guys to go play the demo. I need you to play the demo. I will leave the link to the demo in the description section below, because this was a good hour and a half, 2.5 hours that I played. I'm really looking forward to the actual release of the game. And if you want more first look RPG deep dives that the algorithm usually buries, then I want you to just hit the subscribe button, join the Outcast community, check out the Discord in a link below if you want to talk about more RPGs. But that's the case. Alabaster Dawn isn't just gorgeous pixel art, It's a pixel art that moves, breathes, and occasionally could break your heart. Cause I'm a little touchy on that little prologue. I need to see what happens next. But if you've been waiting for the next game that reminds you why a handful of pixels convey more emotion than millions of polygons, then you absolutely need to just, I need you to go check this demo out. Let me know in the comments if you're already played it, or you're going to play it, or if you played CrossCode, then, let me know. But other than that, stay safe out there, Outcast. It's been your host, KSD TV, signing out. Peace.